to talk about in terms of how the market was today and how it's likely to be come tomorrow. Our Sreesankar, he's the head institutional equities at Prabhudas Lilladher, will be joining us on the show. And we also have on board Sandeep Bagle from Power My Wealth. Gentlemen, hi, good evening. And Sandeep and Sreesankar, want your thoughts on this entire sugar rally that is taking place. Does it seem like this time around the investment thesis on sugar has changed purely because what is transpiring with Brazil? We've been speaking with experts all along today as well, and they do see a fundamental recovery coming into sugar. Does one now make sugar as an investment thesis, an investment bet, as opposed to what it was earlier, at best a trading play?
To my mind, it's too early to come back and make a comment on whether sugar is going to be an investment sector in the near term, because what the sector has undergone over the last few years have probably taken the wind out of most of the sugar companies. To get back into a stronger wicket for these companies, it will take much more time. That's number one. Number two, yes, globally, sugar prices had recovered from the lows that they have reached, and here we are speaking in terms of worst ever El Nino, etc., etc. So, what's it going to do for the agricultural commodities? We think from what we have seen the prices, and almost at every agricultural commodity being at the low part of their prices the last decade or so, you should see a smarter recovery, and sugar has also recovered along with it, plus what's happening in Brazil. But my thought process is Indian companies has a bigger problem in hand, so it may be, they may be better than what they were, but I don't still think that it's getting into the investment scenario.
Okay, just about getting there in the investment zone, but still early days to call on sugar as an investment theme. But Sandeep, I want to draw your attention on some of these tobacco companies which have been moving pretty hard off late. The likes of an ITC, not only a tobacco play, but nonetheless a larger chunk of it, or for that matter, Godfrey Phillips, etc. Anything that's looking trade-worthy to you? Other one which was in focus today, and the management commentary at that, of course, slew of brokerage notes as well coming out in this one. They of course are working to ramp up utilization levels. They do not see good visibility when it comes to the third quarter, but they're indicating that it's going to be a relatively softish second half. They are working on deal wins, which they say are on the rise. They're confident of a better outlook come Q4, and that really is the indication that is coming in from Infosys. And Sreesankar, I want your views on Infi. You know, this is not the first time that an IT company has come out and said that, you know, it's going to be a softish quarter ahead. But the point of the matter is all the negative in the price now for Infi?
To a great extent, what they have mentioned is exactly what they said in the Q2 conference call, result conference call. It's nothing new, except that they had mentioned they had their best performance, yet they came out with a cautious second half statement, and probably at that point of time it would have been too early to come out with a performance on Q4. Q4 is something which they would have said right now. So to us, Infosys still continues to be one of the top picks, and we still have it as one of our top picks of all the stocks. And in the IT sector, we have only Infosys, Hexaware, and NIT Technologies as three top picks. So Infosys is the top pick from the last stocks in IT sector.
Okay, Infi continues to shine bright, but today it had a bit of a down day, 1.7% lower for Infi on closing bell. The one stock. Back with markets tomorrow right here on ET Now, and it was a largely range-bound session, you have to say, considering we time and again tested the 7,800 mark, made that peak of 7,850 plus, and then again petered down from there, just about managing to hold out 7,800. Really, that was the key takeaway. So yeah, 7,800 for the last two trading sessions definitely is acting like a key support. You had IT, which was a bit of a drag today. FMCG, or rather actually IT, held out barring a few few odd names here and there. FMCG was a big winner, so were metals. You had pharmaceuticals, which continue to be a drag. Banks as well, in particular PSUs, they too saw some profit taking after an up day yesterday. Within the mid caps, you had logistic names which continue to fly high, aviation stocks, in particular Interglobe Aviation, that continues to run up into a frizzy. You also had sugar, which continues to look good, and then of course there were the tea and coffee names as well to give sugar due company. But lots line up for tomorrow as well in terms of key data points, and you'll have data come in out of China as well to look out for. So let's just play out those data points for you. You'll have China October property prices coming out, and of course US housing starts for the month of October as well. That is going to be something key that the market is going to look out for. But Sreesankar, just want to come to you for your opinion on the market. How soon before we see a meaningful revival, considering earnings continue to be lumpy and you've got that big overhang of the Fed liftoff as well?
Okay, to my mind, there are 4 factors that one needs to bear in mind. First and foremost factor which will determine the direction of the market in terms of flow is going to be the international fund flow from institutional investors. That's the FII flow as we speak. I don't think there is nothing concrete which tells me that equity markets are going to, the global growth is going to be very stronger in this liquidity environment, will continue to that extent, which also means that a lot of money will flow into the emerging markets. That I don't think is not going to be there to that extent currently, which means that FII flows in the near term is not going to be that strong. So you will have to rely to a great extent on the international flows. Sorry, domestic flows. Second factor, now earnings growth, yes, doesn't look too good, and probably I would not be surprised at all if I see earnings downgrade for Q3, Q4 further happening again, which means that then why should the money from FIIs do come into this market? That's where, like I think Christopher Wood was mentioning earlier, in terms of a relative performance of the economy compared to the other emerging markets, etc., I think India is looking much more robust. So because the relative performance is going to be good, your economy is looking sound, and earnings are relatively better, and currency relatively stable. I'm using the word relative to a great extent out here. So relatively stable, you may still see some money keep coming in. So the fact which is going to drive is a domestic stability, domestic growth, and internationally India being relatively better off in terms of current account deficit, in terms of fiscal deficit, in terms of the economy management to be much better. So you should continue to see the flows coming in, or investor interest coming in. That relative scenario should keep the market fairly steady. So I would think that what is the market target that we have? At the low end of the spectrum, we have somewhere around 7,500, and at the high end of the spectrum, we have around 8,200 at this stage.
Okay, Sreesankar, want your opinion on aviation, especially with the new listing of Interglobe. The space suddenly seems to have got that zing back into it. Is there still money to be made on the table, considering the speed at which names like Interglobe have gained ever since its listing?
If your question is there money to be made on the airline stocks? Answer is yes. If your question is the money to be made on Interglobe? No comments on that side.
Okay. Okay, that's the view coming in on aviation stocks per se. But let's wind it down then on this edition of Markets Tomorrow. It's been a range-bound session. Let's see where tomorrow takes us, whether we build on to that 7,800 mark, or is it only fluttering to deceive us, and are we going to, see this uptick getting sold into? But Sreesankar, Sandeep, thank you both for taking the time out and speaking with us today and analyzing really what our investors and viewers could do come Markets Tomorrow.